Hi, it's Nathan here. The Managing Electrical Risks in the Workplace Code of Practice provides advice to businesses on how to manage electrical risks. The first few sections talk about electrical systems and electrical installations in general, and the main requirement there is to have safe electrical installations. And if you didn't build the building, you sort of just rely on the electrician to have done that correctly. But things like fuses, circuit breakers, correct wiring and cables. And then your job as the business owner or the person with management or control of that building is to make sure that those electrical installations remain safe. So all work needs to be done by an electrician. If you've got like GPOs or electrical fittings hanging out of the wall, that's an issue, you need to get that fixed. The other requirement is to have residual current devices or RCDs or safety switches, which once again, you sort of rely on the people who built the house or the electrician to make sure they're installed. Next sections talk about unsafe electrical equipment. So things like power boards, extension leads, portable appliances like tools, anything that runs on 240. And making sure that unsafe electrical equipment isn't used. And it's not just not using it. So if we've got like a drill and we're using it and it starts throwing sparks out, we don't just put it back on the shelf, that we lock it out, tag it out, report it, and then don't use it until it gets fixed. The next few sections talk about inspections and testing. So the main types are a pre-start inspection, which we should have workers like inspecting electrical equipment before they use it, looking for things like cuts in or nicks in the cable or cords, missing pins in the plug, exposed wires, missing housings, that sort of stuff. And then periodic testing and tagging by a competent person. The periods are listed in the Australian Standard for in-service testing of portable appliances, 3 monthly for construction, 6 monthly for warehousing or workshops, and there's a few other frequencies in there, 12 monthly, 2 yearly, 5 yearly. And also RCD, 6 monthly push button test. The next section starts to talk about de-energized work. So work that's done on electrical installations should be de-energized. So the most common type is going to be like electricians doing work, and before they start going around playing around with wiring, they need to make sure it's de-energized. So the first part of this section talks about that we need to assume it is energized. We can't just assume that, oh, someone else has isolated it. We need to go and check. And then if we are doing the de-energization, we need to isolate it, lock it out, so put a lock on it, and then test that the isolation's effective. And then we need to protect it from inadvertent re-energization. So the first protection is obviously the lock, but obviously we could have some signage or barriers as well. And then once work is finished, we don't just re-energize, we need to re-energize safely. So we need to make sure all the work is complete, make sure all the circuits and everything and all the fittings have been made safe, make sure workers are out of the area, make sure tools are out of the area, and then we can re-energize and then have the handover with whoever's taking us over, with whoever's taking the site over. The next section talks about energized work. So basically there's a prohibition on all energized work. You need to de-energize if possible. And then if it's not possible, then there's some requirements for energized work. So a lot of controls are going to be in place for this, but there needs to be a risk assessment by a competent person. It's high risk construction work, so you need to have a safe work method statement. Things like competent workers, exclusion zones, safe access and egress, suitable tools and equipment. The next section talks about there's some requirements for tools and equipment. So things like making sure the tools and equipment are fit for purpose. No conductive tools are used, for example, no metal ladders. And then the final section talks about high voltage work. You need a safety management plan for that. There's a whole bunch of controls in place, and there needs to be a bunch of like safe operating procedures and emergency response procedures, competent workers. Hope that helps.